I have been trying to peel back the layers of that argument, but I have not. And I've watched probably like at least 5 videos on it from different content creators. I tried to look through some threads a couple hours before I started stream or whatever. I've not found one compelling argument as to why this is like a worrisome or a super like gigantic big deal. It's not a big deal. Other genres are just getting better. I don't agree with that. Cause niggas like to me, I feel like hip hop and rap music in general gets way or has gotten way too much attention. I feel more worried about R&B and soul music than I ever have about hip hop over the last 5 to 10 years. I've been way more concerned about R&B as a genre than I have been about hip hop. Just gonna be honest with you. And anytime something happens to like maybe get hip hop out of the limelight a little bit, or where they're not like being as talked about as often, like people feel the urge to like create these narratives about like the genre not being what it used to be or it failing. Like people are using it as like a definitive angle to say like, no, this is why hip hop died. And I'm like, what are you saying? They have R&B and hip hop in the same category, number one, which is actually fucking insane to me. And then you look and they have Justin Bieber, Swag in the top 5 for R&B / hip hop albums. And I gotta look at these idiots tell me hip hop is dead because it's not in the top 40 for the first time in 30 years. I feel like after a certain point, this shouldn't be the spark for what instigates. Like this shouldn't instigate a conversation about the death of hip hop. A list or a system that groups R&B and hip hop into the same category and then puts Justin Bieber at top 5 for it. It's not that the charts are not a good indicator of what people are listening to. And it's not to say that it's not important, because another argument that I've heard against, hip hop is that the less public it is, like the less we see it in these conversations, or the less that we see it on Billboard, or the less that we see it at the Grammys, the less money there is for artists to scoop up and potentially spawn new acts. And personally, I feel like a lot of people should go back to the approach that I felt Rock Marciano said some years ago. I think it was 2018, 2019, where he was talking about recouping 6 figures as an independent artist. From a small group of fans by releasing his music, you know what I'm saying, to a localized group of people. And I feel like part of the reason why, you get this uphill tick and then this downward spiral of something like hip hop is because there's so much money invested into it. And then it becomes all these other incentives to do this and do that and satirize, or satirize the entire marketplace until you devalue it essentially. I don't have a problem with hip hop having a fade away from the top 40 or having a fade away from you know what I'm saying, the mainstream appeal that it's had, because I don't feel like it should be as accessible as it's been the last couple years anyway. That's just me personally. If it has to climb its way back up, that's fine. If it has to be a little bit more local, I feel like that's fine too. I don't feel like it was ever supposed to be this big. But I feel like people are trying so hard for there to be a particular reason so they can either be on the right side of history, or they can just stop, I don't know, theorizing about like why it is this or why it isn't this. I just don't feel like you can pinpoint it to one specific reason. There's a myriad of reasons why hip hop isn't as, you know what I'm saying, preferred within the mainstream at this moment. I think one of the reasons is we don't have anybody that's been dropping like that as far as mainstream wise this year to really push that envelope. The last spot that was in the top 40 was Kendrick Lamar. And if I'm correct, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure GNX for hip hop this year still has the highest sales, right? But for it to still have come out in 2024 and it still be one of the highest grossing records the next year shows to me there just haven't been that many drops. People are gonna mention Playboi Carti, and I don't know why Carti never gets mentioned in the conversation when we talk about like hip hop being represented this year. Maybe because he's just not traditional. Maybe they don't like him enough, but I think Carti did what with IM Music, like 300,000 first week. I don't even think it's limited to that many good drops either. I mean, that is a contributing factor. We got the Carter 6 that came out this year. We got You Scuddy that came out from Young Thug this year. And a lot of that traction was kind of minimized due to Young Thug's antics outside of the music. He was dropping interview after interview after interview. Then when the music came around, none of that shit made it there. None of the shit that would have been interesting to hear musically made it into the music. It was instead released through interviews. So we probably gave more attention to those than people gave to the music, on top of the music just not being that great. And of course, hip hop is never gonna be a thing that people need to look at and say, oh, okay, well, if there aren't mainstream artists that are coming out this year, then the entire genre as a whole is failing creatively and there's nothing interesting coming out. That's obviously not true. And I want that to be the case. I want it to be an easy explanation. I want it to be something so simple like, oh yeah, the artists are just trash now. That's not true. There's new niggas spawning every single day. Now, do they all get the attention that they deserve? No. There seem to be people that think that if everybody crowds around one guy that everybody kind of agrees is talented, that'll be the new mainstream guy. And that's just not the way that we should be interacting with people that are talented within the space. Because everybody isn't meant for the mainstream stage. Everybody isn't meant to be on consumed at a mass. I just don't feel that way. I feel like there should be artists that are extremely good, like 10, 20, 30 times better than the mainstream, that never get that mainstream recognition if that be their choice. Some guys you should have to look for, I'm sorry. Some guys don't want that position. Some guys don't want to be consumed at a mass. And I feel like when we had these conversations about, oh, well, there's nobody new, y'all not supporting the underground enough because if you did, they'd be mainstream now. That's not the intent. That shouldn't be their purpose. Let the mainstream niggas keep dropping what they drop, have the blockbuster releases whenever they come out, and leave everybody else alone. But we got the subsections and the subgenres of rap for a reason. Everybody don't need to listen to the exact same thing and consume it in the exact same way. And they'll had a conversation endlessly about how you're not supporting this guy and this guy. I know people will probably be like, oh yeah, that's probably a misguided take from you to say you don't think that hip hop should have ever been as big as it is, but I don't think it should have been. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if it was, not made to be profitable in the way that it was. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that all the voices that we have now aren't amazing. That's not me taking that away. It's probably mad niggas that I'm listening to right now that, unless those contracts were signed 30 years ago, we would never know about. I'm not saying it's not still a good thing, but at the end of the day, for it to go back to a little bit of a return to form and it not be accessible to everybody the way it's been, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. On top of that, I think for those who are fearing rap not having the funding that it needs, quote unquote, and them not having like the availability to support the new and up and coming artists, I feel like this will eventually still put more of the power of the music back in the hands of the people that make it. If you're telling me that a label doesn't have the amount of money to fund an artist, the type of contracts they generally sign these guys for in the first place are generally predatory on its own. Do you want them to be in that position as their first option when they get up? You know what I'm saying? When they start having their popularity, when they start having their surge, you want them to go there first? I just don't feel like that's wise. There's way more profit in having a small core group of people listening to you. It is. It's way more lucrative. It's way more longevity within it. I personally feel like. I don't think it makes sense to put everybody in center stage. I just don't. Do you know how many hip hop and rap elements are within the top 100 that they don't even categorize as a rap song or a hip hop record? Do you know how many musicians that aren't within the genre take from it, and they end up at whatever placement they end up at? People hear an element and then it's categorized as pop. You know how many pop songs they're rapping? You know how many K-pop songs steal from hip-hop? I just don't feel like saying shit like this is representative of like where we truly are if you break it down. I feel like it's kind of, you're overlooking a lot to get to this point.
And then it goes into the reasoning in this next paragraph.
Oh, they try to explain it.
Recent rule changes to Billboard's Hot 100 methodology did play a part in the streak coming to an end. For the chart dated October 25th, descending songs were deemed recurrent and removed from the chart if they had exceeded certain durations on the chart while also falling below certain updated chart thresholds.
So you cannot occupy real estate if you were not, if you're not recent?
25.
So this isn't about people's listening habits at all. It's just about the rubric that Billboard has implemented now.
Recent changes to Billboard methodology in terms of how they put things on the charts or take them off has made it so there's no rap songs in the top 40 on the Billboard charts.
Keep in mind, though, another thing that I would like to mention, I don't know what conspiracy that someone could come up with for why this conversation was sparked. I don't know if someone needed an article. I don't know where this exactly came from, like the first instance of it. But no one could have told me that hip hop has been in the top 40 on Billboard since the last 30 years. And it's been like a streak of that. Nobody could have told me that, and I cared. I never would have cared. I still don't care. And it never would have changed or altered the way I interact with any of the songs from that era up until now. I'm sure it wouldn't have changed anything for anybody that loves whatever records that were or weren't on the Billboard Hot 100. But I just think for it to barely have been the thing to spark this dialogue is, to me, making it feel a little conspiratorial. Because to me, immediately having rap songs just nudged outside of that top 40 range, like, it makes it seem like when you hear this that you can't find a rap song on the Billboard Hot 100 at all. That's the way it presents itself. Not that, like, when you see this, okay, obviously it says top 40, but when you hear the lack of inclusion, it makes you immediately be like, well, what are the rappers doing? What's wrong with the guys making the music? Why aren't the people listening? That's what it makes it seem like. And you're right, 40 is just a strange number. It's a very odd cutoff. I could see top 50. I'm not gonna lie to you. Top 50 as far as a number would make more sense to me if you were to say something like that. But then we're not having a conversation about hip hop no longer being in the top 50. So why stop at 40? I just don't get that.
Creating a system that takes a song off of what's supposed to reflect
what people listen to.
Listening habits for people? Like, what's the benefit of taking a song off of there if it's been on there too long? Why would Billboard want to change that? Wouldn't that be something that you'd want to continue to keep track of if you're supposed to be tracking what the hottest things are? But a bunch of people did, the people who pay attention to this sort of thing, and now they're all woe is me about. Now we're back to the death of hip-hop. Remember, before the Kendrick and Drake battle, all the discourse people were reporting on the demise of hip-hop. Hip-hop was no longer a viable industry. It was falling off a cliff. It was this, it was that. And then the Kendrick and Drake battle happened, and all of a sudden, everything was new and shiny again. Everybody was listening to rap music. Everybody was talking about rap music. It's all in the public sphere. Everybody's making money, talking about it, and everything was great. Now that the battle has died down, all these same people are going back to this idea that the health of the industry is somehow impaired because there's no rap songs in the top 40 of the Billboard charts based on a change that Billboard decided to make.
While I agree with his assessment of this particular point, I still think the attention that Drake and Kendrick received last year and even into this year has severely damaged the way people interact with hip hop. 100%. I still think that was damaging to the way people consume it. I think that was damaging to the way people interact with both Kendrick's music and Drake's music. Still, that doesn't mean that I think that led to or is leading to the death of hip hop. I just think people need to find something else to talk about. That baseball header that we got, you know, LA Dodgers versus the Blue Jays, nobody needed that. It's 2 years later, gang. Let it go. It's funny, though. It's a funny joke for fans to talk about, for fans to make. Oh, shit, LA over Toronto again. Not the league themselves. They shouldn't be making no shit like that. When the fuck has baseball ever referenced these two niggas? It's odd.
And I honestly don't see why anybody gives a shit. On the last morning show,
and I do still get why people give a shit, because I still think there's a problem with the way people interact with hip-hop. That doesn't mean that I think at any point in our generation or the next, or anytime soon, or anytime in the future, that I think hip-hop is at risk of fading away or fading to black, or it being a lost genre. I just don't think that that's on the horizon at all. You know what I'm saying? Hip hop in and of itself is a way of life. It's not just, you know what I'm saying, a genre of music. It's literally intertwined with the way people do shit in their day to day. It's not as simple as, oh yeah, this rapper isn't making songs that are selling, so genre death now. That's not how it works.
This
And it might be one of the few genres that works like that.
You got Armin Hammer coming next week. You got Danny Brown coming next week. You got my shit. You got Earl Sweatshirt. You got 3 West Side Gun albums. 2 Aesop Rock albums.
See, this is the problem too. I think this interaction with hip hop is also unhealthy. Cause I don't want to fucking listen to that. I'm gonna be honest. There's a ton of people that don't want to listen to that. And not to say that I don't want to hear it. I obviously want to hear it. Cause I'm somebody that listens to like a bunch of hip hop. But you got another subsection or subgroup. But it isn't to say that like this doesn't deserve ears, because it definitely does. It's just to say when you say, oh, I don't feel like there's nothing out this year. And obviously, like objectively, there are things out this year, but things for like a casual that likes hip hop, but wants to interact with it in a way that isn't as hardcore. And I'm not saying that, you know what I'm saying, Open Mike Eagle make hardcore hip hop, or that, you know, everybody that he listed is in this exclusive or elite group that can't be listened to from casual ears. But people need something a little bit, you know what I'm saying, light. They need a little lightness, you know what I'm saying? And if they listen to, you know, and they interact with hip hop through like somebody like a Lil Baby or a Young Thug, and they work a lot and they don't put, you know, a lot of time into listening to this and trying to find this and trying to find that, I could understand. I could understand them feeling like they don't have that level of visibility, but it's not because they're not making music that is good enough or that isn't good enough to make the charts. It's just because they're not dropping yet. Like those artists just haven't dropped, I feel like, enough material to come out with this year to talk about. I feel like the mainstream generally has just been quiet this year. There hasn't been a lot to come out, and that's okay. And at least a lot to come out that's been good. Nobody's listening to Lil Wayne or the Young Thug or the Lil Baby. All of those records were ass this year. They were. Also, the lack of attention span. You're not wrong, but some of it's not attention span. Some of it literally is a lack of time. I do shit like this from time to time, and I still find myself feeling overwhelmed sometime, especially as you get older. You just feel like you got less time for recreational, just casual things, and you gotta make time for it. I gotta make time to fit an album in. I gotta make time to, you know what I'm saying, listen to this when I get some additional time. You know, people need alternatives to these recommendations, because if you tell somebody Aesop Rock after telling them hip hop's in a great place, they might want to smack the shit out you. I think this equally attributes to that AI artist who signed a multi-million-dollar stream and started charting on Billboard too. Yeah, man, like that's weird. Or really, Aesop Rock is the alternative to the mainstream, sure. But when you talk about like blockbuster hits and shit like that, you want those big records because they're a spectacle and they make it fun. Even if there's not something that you personally listen to. Like when Cardi had that big rollout this year, it was fun following it from 2024 up until he dropped the album. I'm not the biggest Cardi fan in the world. It was still fun to be involved. It was still fun to see such a big deal made out of it. It's nice. It's just nice. You know what I'm saying? When I go see the new Spider-Man movie, whenever the fuck that new one comes out, I don't remember the name of it, but I'm going to see it partially because I'm a Spider-Man fan, obviously, but I'm also going to be seeing it because I know it's going to be a spectacle. I know it's going to be gigantic. I know it's going to be huge. It's fun. It's fun experiencing something like that everybody else gets to experience at the same time. I get it. But I don't think hip hop needs to be consumed in that medium for it to be in a good place. I just don't. And people trying to make it have to be that in order for hip hop to be looked at as successful, I just think you're missing the point of what this genre even spawned as.
Stuff my son listened to. Osama San dropped an album. 1AM dropped an album. 3 dropped an album. Like,
he did not just say Osama San. Oh my God. Not to say that that's a bad choice. It's a bad choice. But I fuck with Osama San heavy.
It's
heavy is kind of crazy. Let me narrow that. I know like 3 Osama San songs that I fuck with heavy. I think I saw Fantano say something about this, that Taylor Swift and other records are occupying so much of the top 40 that, on top of the fact that there haven't been like a lot of major releases recently from rappers, it's going to be hard for anybody to infiltrate this with her occupying so much of the top 10, so much of the top 20. I wouldn't even call a large majority of the top 40 that we're looking at right now that great. Like, by default, you make it seem like everything that's within the top 40 is good enough to be there. And then you look at hip hop like as a response and you're like, oh yeah, well, everything that isn't in this list clearly just wasn't good enough to be here. And that is another point of contention I have about this article being made and people discussing this in the way that they've been discussing it. Like, oh yeah, we just need to get better as rappers. Like, stop.
List.
I've heard some of these records, bro. Come on, man. Some of y'all niggas is paying. Some of this music belongs in the background of Forever 21. Right, Target tunes. Walmart woes. Just cut it out, bro. Which one of these records are better than the rap songs that you're about to see in the top 40 or the top 50? I can guarantee you a single Justin Bieber song don't belong in the top 40. I heard this album is fucking ass. I'm sorry. I heard what Mariah the Scientist be doing. No, she's not a rapper, but she ain't made good music in years. I fuck with my dog though. Tate McRae? Cut it out. We know what Taylor Swift is doing right now. But at the same time, what he's saying is true. But at the same time, what I'm saying is true. Like, I don't think it needs to be a priority for us to have a Drake or have someone that emulates whatever Drake is supposed to represent. However, I do think having it as an option is good. Especially for somebody like me that knows the good and the bad of hip hop. Sometimes I don't want to listen to shit that's just because it's good. Like, it could be amazing. I know that sounds dumb. But, like, great music sometimes comes with a level of thought that doesn't just, that extends sometimes beyond does it sound good or not. Sometimes I want does it sound good or not music. And it still be good. Like, I think Drake has made music within that vein. I think other popular rappers have made music with this, that is within that vein. I think it's still healthy to have that, like, opposite.
Pop act.
Niggas said we got Jid. No, the
I just want us to investigate, as always, how much of our consumption is being guided by corporations. And if you only like corporate rap, cool. Then yeah, you keep looking for your corporate rap successes on the Billboard Top 40, regardless of what changes they make to their methodology. I feel like historically we were more aware that popularity didn't always equal quality. And we have got very far away from that.
That's part of the delusion I feel like this is. But at the same time, I think the crux of his argument is still really good. And I think he's made the most sense out of any video I've watched so far about this subject.